Hello, every being, and welcome to our talk, Fill All the Cups, a Plural Approach to Resilience. We believe that this talk does not have any common triggers or content that needs a warning. The intentions of this talk are to share our lived experience with the topic of resilience, to share what we have learned on the subject, and to open a conversation. We would love to hear others' experiences and opinions. A small disclaimer: we are not experts. The information in this session is all lived experience. We also want to say that we use the language plurals, plural system, and headmates in this talk because those are our preferred terms, as well as language we see commonly used in our community. We do not intend to leave many feeling left out because of language. I am Wolf of the Esoteric, and there will be guest appearances in this talk by a couple of my headmates. We sat down together as a group to write the script for this recording. Because we are able to record this ahead, we're going to show you pictures of how we look in our inner world in the corner of the screen to represent ourselves more truthfully and to help those of you who are watching be able to tell quickly who is fronting. We will describe our pictures once, but each time the speaker changes, we will tell you our names. If we do not describe what is showing on the screen, it is a bullet point summary of what we are saying. Again, my name is Wolf. My pronouns are sa, they, or he. My image is of a black wolf with yellow eyes on a grassy background. In the inner world, I actually have green eyes. This picture is from Wikimedia. This talk is split into several parts. First, we will explain the title of the talk. Then, we talk about resilience in general, including general ways of building resilience. Next, we will apply resilience through the idea of filling all the cups. After that, I touch briefly on the dark side of resilience, because it's good to be aware of potential problems before they happen. Finally, we talk about how resilience and the idea of cups applies specifically to plural systems. Part 1. Fill all the cups. In 2010 and thereabouts, there was an amazing webcomic/blog that we loved called Hyperbole and a Half. The writer, Ali Brosh, took extremely relatable topics and drew them in simple cartoons, characterized by not quite straight lines and bright colors. On June 17th, 2010, Ali wrote about the cycle of taking on responsibilities, feeling accomplished but like you could do more, taking on more, getting overwhelmed, doing nothing, feeling down, and then taking on responsibilities again. In this post, she drew this image, a sketch of a woman wearing pink, holding a broom with one fist in the air against a background of a yellow burst, with the handwritten words, "Clean all the things," across the top. We think this is iconic. It certainly was for a while at the time, so maybe we're just dating ourselves. Anyway, "clean all the things" became a sort of meme format then. Do all the dishes, vacuum all the floors, buy all the groceries, as a way of saying, I am adulting, but I might be doing too much, but I would rather make a joke out of it than face the fact that I might burn out soon. We titled this presentation Fill All the Cups in homage to an influential comic, as a nod to the oncoming burnout many of us are consistently facing in this community, and as a reminder that, as plurals, we need to fill everyone's cup in the system to continue being resilient and functioning at our best. And the idea of filling cups comes from the cliche that says, you can't pour from an empty cup. We'll talk more about that saying in part 3. Part 2. Resilience. I'm a nerd, and I'm going to start this with a couple of definitions of the word resilience. From the New Oxford Dictionary, we have the capacity to withstand or recover quickly from difficulties, toughness. This is probably the definition that most people think of when they hear the word resilience. The capacity to withstand or recover quickly from difficulties. In other words, when something hard happens to you, You are either able to get through it without too much in the way of bad effects, or you are able to get past those bad effects quickly. However, there is another definition in the New Oxford Dictionary: the ability of a substance or object to spring back into shape, elasticity. I would like to apply this definition specifically to systems, but through the lens of the other definition. That is, I would like to smash both definitions together and say, look, this is what we as systems do. However, I can't speak for all systems, just my own. I think that we often find hard situations pull us out of shape. Someone is stuck in the front or in the deep basement of our inner world, as far from the front as possible. Someone splits or someone's merge, or new co-conscious groups come about. These new shapes are not always a bad thing, but it does mean that we have to adjust to them. Our elasticity, our ability to spring back into shape, doesn't have to mean returning to the old shape. It can just as easily mean that our shape as a system has changed, and we have adjusted to the change, and now we consider this new shape to be in shape for us. For example, we recently got a new headmate, Crow. When Crow joined us, we found ourselves in a new shape. At first, it was an uncomfortable shape, a hard experience. But as time went by, we adjusted to the new shape, and now Crow is an important part of our system. We are in shape with Crow, and it would be hard for us to adjust if Crow left. So in this example, shape refers to how we are organized in our headspace, our inner world. We can also be pulled out of shape in the outer world. For example, in February of 2024, I injured our wrist. It ended up being a chronic issue, that is, one that stuck around for a long time. In fact, it's still here. We have to wear a small wristband to support our wrist every single day, or we aren't able to do nearly as much as we used to be able to do, and as we can do with the band on. Our shape, our conception of ourselves and our body, has changed to match this new reality. We feel almost wrong without the wristband on, as much as we do without a ring on. It's not normal anymore for us to do anything other than wash the dishes without the wristband. Our shape changed, and when a new injury happened to the same hand, we felt out of shape again. So it's our ability to spring into a new shape as much as it is our ability to spring back into the old shape. In fact, I think true resilience is the ability to find a new shape and make it just as truly yours as the previous shape was. As your needs change, your shape changes, both internally and externally. That is how we withstand and recover quickly from our difficulties. We change shape. Hi, I'm Doom, also of the Esoteric. I'm Wolf's slightly younger brother. My pronouns are he, him. My icon in the bottom corner shows a young white man with spiky black hair and a red collared shirt, facing away from the screen because we can't draw faces well, with a blue sky for the background. I want to say something about traumagenic systems and headmates, as a traumagenic headmate myself, though nobody else in my system is traumagenic. So, Wolf just said, that is how we withstand and recover quickly from our difficulties. We change shape. And that is more true with plural systems, especially traumagenic plural systems, than with any other beings, I would argue. For traumagenic systems and headmates, the proof of our ability to find a new shape to adapt is in our very existence. There was trauma, a hard situation, and we adjusted to it by creating headmates. Creating headmates is one very big way of creating a new shape. Thank you. I'll turn it back to Wolf now. Wolf again. Thanks, Doom. A good point. So resilience is changing shape to meet our changing needs. How do you build this resilience? How do you get the ability to change shape? I used to work in healthcare, so I'm going to make an analogy to building muscle through working out. When you lift weights, say you're doing bicep curls, you have a weight in your hand and you're bending your elbow over and over, bringing that weight up to your shoulder and then back down toward the floor. After a while, your biceps start to ache, so you stop. And then you do some more the next day and you still ache, and the next day, and the next day. And over time, you find out that you can do more curls or use more weight before you start to ache. You're building that muscle as you exercise. But let's look inside the body. What's happening? You're actually causing these tiny little micro tears in your muscle. You're ripping the muscle in very small ways, and when it grows back in those places, it grows back stronger. So, how does that relate to resilience? You have to exercise that muscle as well. And to do that, you need to experience some micro tears, some tiny disruptions to your world. Maybe there's construction on your route to work, so you have to go a different way to get there. You have to use unfamiliar roads. You figure out how to get there. Maybe you guess based on which way the roads are going. Maybe you use a map app. But the point is that one way or another, you figured out for yourself how to get to work. That's a success. You've just taught yourself that when a micro tear happens, you're able to figure it out. You use some skill, and yes, thinking, oh, I should use a map, or oh, I should call someone who knows these roads, both of those are skills too. You use some skill and you figured it out. Now you know that you can figure it out. You built a little bit of resilience. So you just keep meeting little challenges like that, growing stronger over the micro tears. And when that's easy, you make it a little bit of a challenge, a little bit harder, just like lifting a little bit more weight or doing more reps. That's how you build resilience. Now, what if you're thinking, Wolf, I can't think of any micro tears I can use, or Wolf, that sounds too hard for me right now. That's okay. Maybe you need to focus on building resilience in more accessible ways. Make a list of things you're good at and read it out loud. Even if it's just one thing, make yourself say it out loud. Accept that you're good at it. Ask a friend what you're good at. Smile at someone and write that down. You just made someone stay better, and that was good. You'll still be able to work your way up to bigger things. The important thing is to go at your own pace. Part 3. Filling all the cups. Okay, let's say you've built resilience. You went through some hard things, you survived, you're doing well now. How do you keep your resilience high? Well, you keep practicing, for one, but you also take care of yourself at the same time. Have you ever heard the cliche, you can't pour from an empty cup? Well, it's true. Keep your cup filled up so you can pour from it. And by pouring from your cup, I mean both doing things for other people and taking care of your own everyday needs. One day in February of 2025, I was sitting around thinking about the fact that I was exhausted and thinking there was no good reason for it. Sure, I'd been doing a lot of homework and housework, but I hadn't been socializing or doing activism or, I don't know, mountain climbing. My cup felt empty when I was certain it should be full. After all, homework and housework are all things I do for myself, right? Wrong. Well, they are for myself, but they're for my future self, not my right now self. That turned out to be an important distinction. They actually empty my cup to do them, even if things like housework offer a portion of that back to refill the cup some after the task is done. So that's complicated. What is my response to something being complicated? Well, I did say I'm a nerd, and I'm specifically a numbers and lists nerd. So, in the absence of any numbers, I made a list. I made two lists, actually. I took a piece of plain paper, folded it in half, unfolded it, drew a line down the fold, and made two lists side by side. The left side of my page was titled Fills My Cup, and the right side was titled Empties My Cup. This is an exercise that I would honestly recommend every many and everyone at least think through, even if you never write anything down. So it's pretty self-explanatory. Under fills my cup, you would write down everything that fills your cup. Well, maybe not everything, but the main things you do regularly or enjoy doing occasionally. And under empties my cup, write down everything you do regularly that wears you out, takes your spoons, if you're familiar with spoon theory, takes your energy, or hurts you in some way. It is absolutely normal for something to end up on both sides of the list. Like I mentioned, housework for me. It can empty your cup to start the task and do it, but once it's done, you get a boost from having a clean home or whatever. For me, socializing with the right folks for the right amount of time, doing the right thing, is something that fills my cup. But if it's the wrong folks, or it goes on for too long, or we're doing something that isn't exactly right for me in that moment, then it empties my cup. So that's another way something could end up on both sides of the page. So it was valuable to me personally to have this list, and my headmate Gavin, who is my youngest brother, decided that he wanted to try making his own list too. And y'all, I know we're different people with different preferences and different skills and all that, but I will tell you that I was still surprised at how different our lists were. Some of the things that feel like chores for me to do are things he enjoys doing, and vice versa. But the biggest thing was that he only put socializing on the emptying list when it was with people who don't like him. Not even with people he doesn't like, the sweet bean, but with people who don't like him. He says that the only people he doesn't like are people who don't like him, and wow, is that not the most pure thing? He is a better person than I am. Anyway, with our lists so different, our headmate Crow decided that it wanted to do the same exercise to compare. And again, everyone's was different. So then Doom and Heather got on board. Then Heather helped Kel do it in our inner world. Then Crow and Doom attempted to get E to do it in the inner world, but there's still a communication barrier there, so it didn't work out too well. E didn't understand what they were asking, so we're going to keep working on communicating with E and try this exercise again later. So now the only headmates who haven't done this exercise are E, like I just said, and Peril, who is a blend and hasn't existed yet since we started doing the list. The point I'm trying to make is that we've all done them, and we've found areas where we overlap, but we've also found a lot of areas where one headmate's filler is another headmate's emptier. Take as an example our socializing. We're all filled by socializing to a certain point, but that point is different for each of us. Gavin could socialize all day, well past the time that the rest of us are exhausted. So it's clear that we can't fill his cup by socializing. I'm not sure he has a full setting when it comes to socializing. He also can play certain video games for longer than anyone else. He doesn't get bored or frustrated as quickly as we do, even if we're just in the background. But writing does nothing for him. If he had to write, he would find it an emptier, so it's not something he ever does personally. When someone else writes, it doesn't affect him either way. So we can keep an eye on his levels by not making him write, and by giving him time to play his games, and by socializing. Meanwhile, Doom, Heather, Kel, and I all find socializing becomes a chore past a certain point, so Gavin limits his social time to keep from emptying our cups just to fill his. He can always fill his cup in other ways. Heather finds children generally fill her cup. Doom and I both find children empty our cups, and quite quickly. There is an exception there for the younger folks in our system, though. So Heather spends the vast majority of her time in our inner world with those younger folks, which takes care of filling her cup while also fulfilling a desired role within our system of an adult friend to the younger folks. It's important to keep an eye on the levels in your cup and to keep those levels up because you are more resilient when you have more in your cup. You are more able to face sudden difficulties. You are more able to give to others, and you are more able to take care of yourselves and each other. We recommend not just filling your cup when you feel empty, but also regularly doing things from the fill your cup list as a maintenance thing to maintain or keep high levels in the cup. And be patient with yourselves and each other. Sometimes it will be fast and easy to fill your cup. Some days it takes about 5 seconds of my favorite dogs in the neighborhood dog park for me to feel perky. But other days it will be slower and harder to fill your cup. maybe 30 minutes in the dog park with those same dogs, and I'm still feeling stressed or down. Just be patient. It's part of the rhythm of life. Your body, your brain, and, if you like, your soul will all let you know when your cup is filled. And maybe it's just that you need to try a different activity from your list. That's one big reason why I like the list. If something doesn't work, there are many other options. I don't have to brainstorm, they're already listed there. Part 4. The Dark Side. Alright, who's sitting there thinking, resilience sounds great. I'll build it up and keep my cup full and be able to take care of myself and my system from now on? Well, you're right, but I also want to give a few words of caution. There is a dark side to resilience. You can take it too far. Think of the bootstrap mentality, the idea that someone can do whatever they set their mind to if they just try hard enough. That is very dangerous, especially to folks who have been treated as victims in their past. We are more likely to be treated as victims again than for someone new to be treated as a victim for the first time. And yes, I am being very intentional with my language here. Others may treat you as a victim, but I firmly believe that that does not make you a victim. I want you all to take away from this talk that resilience does not mean always relying on yourself or yourselves and no one else. Resilience includes knowing when to reach out for help. So, the downfall of the bootstrap mentality. You can certainly try your best at anything and everything. You can certainly do amazing things. I just don't want you to put yourself or yourselves into an impossible situation and feel like you have to do it alone. Society works in relationships, in give and take. Everyone has something they can give, and everyone has something they can take. Think of the last time you were able to do someone a favor. You felt pretty good about yourself or about the favor, right? Give someone else the gift of feeling that way. Ask for help when you need help. Ask the government for help when you need help. That's what it's there for. Food assistance, medical assistance, income assistance if you lose your job or can't work. Ask the government. Ask your community. Just because you can technically do something by yourself or yourselves doesn't always make that a good idea. There's always a trade off. Are you buying food now but you won't be able to pay rent next week? Think about which thing is harder to get help for, typically rent, and plan to do that part alone and ask for help with the other part, in this example, food. Are you spending so much time advocating for others that you are becoming unwell? Consider advocating for yourself and taking time for yourself to recover and refill that cup. And often, you can do some advocating for others and take some time to rest. You don't have to stop advocating entirely. Part 5. Cups, plural. So let's get back to why we find the list especially helpful as a plural system. We think that singlets can benefit from doing the exercise, and we think that even if only one headmate wants to try it, it's still worth trying. But we also think that when an entire system does this exercise, it can be especially valuable. If you're more individually defined, maybe you want to each make a list. And if you're more blended or co-conscious or just prefer it, maybe you want to make one big list and just make a note beside certain things if they apply to just one or two headmates. Whatever works for you all, whatever is most accessible, go for it. The important part, system-wise, is to have an idea of when things fall into both lists, especially if it's different lists for different headmates. Why is that important? Two reasons. First, if you switch easily and comfortably, you might be able to trade who is in front when you need to do a task that empties the current fronter's cup but fills another fronter's cup. So if we really need to wash dishes and Doom is in front, he might turn to me and say, "Hey Wolf, how are you feeling about washing dishes now?" If it's a time when washing dishes feels like it would empty my cup, I tell him that, and then we decide if the chore can wait, be partially done, or has to be completely done today. And we decide who's going to do it, sometimes by playing rock, paper, scissors, or having Gavin pick a secret number that we try to guess to get out of being the one who has to do the job. Sometimes just making a game out of choosing who has to do it makes actually doing it feel less awful. You can also switch to share a task that fills two headmates' cups so you both get the benefit from it. The second reason why it's important to know what fills and empties your headmates' cups is because we are a system, which means that we all have to work together and we all have to be functioning well individually for us to be functioning well as a group and as a body. Honestly, the times that we feel worst overall, even if some of us have very full cups, are the times when someone else has a very empty cup. And the best way to avoid that feeling is not only to be aware of your own level in your own cup and communicate that with your headmates, but also to try to keep an eye on your headmates' levels in their cups, especially if that headmate is younger or has a harder time communicating. When someone else's cup is low, what can you do to help them? You can remind them to fill their cup, of course, but sometimes they don't know how to do that. Well, with the lists, you can help them choose an activity that fills their cup and encourage them to do that. If they're filled by spending time with friends and you're a friend, you can spend time with them. If they need a clean house, you can do some chores. There are so many ways you can help. Keep in mind the idea of staggered breathing here, too. If you're not familiar with this idea, it comes from singing and has been a metaphor for community resistance for a while. We're not sure who to credit for that comparison, but it's when a whole group has one note that they need to sing for a long time, longer than one being can hold their breath for, so they have to take turns taking breaths. Some pause for breath here, then a different group, then a different group, but at any given moment, most of the choir is singing, so the note stays strong. As plural systems, many of us have an advantage over singlet folks. We can use the staggered breathing idea to keep our system and our body going for longer periods of time by letting individual headmates rest internally. Now, not all systems can do this, and that's okay. And it's still important to give our physical bodies and our physical brains a rest because stress shows up in the body in a number of ways, including muscle tension that can be painful after too long and, all the ways. So make sure you're participating in staggered breathing in your external communities as well, taking a break as a group and letting other bodies carry on without you for a while. Now, in our case, I'm front stuck, which means I can't participate in our staggered breathing the same way. I can't go into the inner world to take a break. However, I can sometimes step back and let someone else front and just sit there with them. And that's one way that my headmates help me rest while I'm front stuck. And even when I can't step back, because sometimes that's how our system works, my youngest headmate Gavin still finds a way to help out. Here it is in his words. Hi, I'm Gavin. I use this he, him for my pronoun. My picture is me. I'm a boy. I'm 13 years old. I got red brown hair and I wear an orange. I'm not looking at the screen because we can't draw faces good. And there's a cloudy blue sky at the back. I got something to say about coming up and helping when my head sib Wolf needed. And Wolf used Sa as the pronoun. Wolf is front stuck. Sa can't never leave front. Sa got a hard time even going and getting into back so I can play my games and go visit him with friends. It's okay. I knows that Sa trying. I don't get mad. But I comes up when wolves start feeling bad nasty feelings. Our brain got something called bipolar. It just means that sometimes our feelings is real big and real hard to control. And for us, and mostly for Wolf, that's the bad feelings. So when Wolf start feeling those bad nasty feelings, I comes up and I says hi and I tries to cheer Sa up. A lot of the times when the bad nasties come, I can't get all the way up in controlling the front, but I can get in the front room so I can sit there and see out and I can talk with Wolf. I can point out the good things around us and I can get Wolf to play a game with me and I can help Sa not feel so bad. And then the bad nasty feelings is just bad and not bad nasty. And then there is just a little bad and then there is gone. And then Wolf get to feel good again. Wolf again. Thank you, Gavin. Thank you for sharing your experience, and thank you for doing that for me. Another aspect of keeping your cups full that we think is important is self accountability when it's done in a compassionate and positive way. So, by that, I mean that we make promises to each other about what we will and will not do, either in general or in a specific time frame, and then we keep each other accountable to those promises. We make sure we keep those promises by reminding each other kindly and helping each other figure out why it's hard to keep a promise so we can all work together to find a better way. In my system, because I'm front stuck and it can be difficult for others to front much of the time, most of the accountability is my headmates keeping me on track with the promises I have made. Breaking a promise not only damages the trust my headmates have in me, but also can damage our ability to keep going by emptying or failing to fill our cup. For example, we have an agreement that none of us will ever drink any kind of caffeine after 2 o'clock in the afternoon. If I break this, it makes us harder to get to sleep that night, which makes it harder to wake up the next morning, which is already pretty hard for us. And then that makes it harder to pay attention in class, which makes it harder to learn, which could affect our grade in the class and our performance in a future job. Okay, that's a bit of an extreme example, as we can always study later and ask the professor questions during office hours, but it helps us to keep those potential long term consequences in mind, because those are the reasons why we made the promises to each other. Those are the reasons to keep the promises. But we also promise each other to remind each other of these promises kindly and politely and compassionately to help each other keep the promises. So this way, we're accountable not just to our individual selves, but also to one another. Hi, Doom again. I wanted to pop in for a moment to add that Wolf tends to catastrophize, to think the worst possible thing is going to happen if Saw makes a mistake. Part of our promises to Wolf is to remind Saw that we aren't actually going to fail out of school if we're a bit sleepy in one class. And if we don't keep that promise, Wolf can get too worked up and have a panic attack. Panic attacks, if you're not familiar, and I hope you aren't, they're no fun for any of us in the body during one. So, yes, we're keeping a promise to help Wolf, but it helps us all avoid that uncomfortable experience, and it helps us all have a more positive and cheerful outlook. One headmate's emotions can really affect another's in our system. It's helpful when it's Gavin cheering us up, but it can be harmful if we don't help each other stay positive and not dwell too long on mistakes. Wolf again. Ha, yes. Thanks, Doom. Call me out. But we found that not only do our emotions directly affect each other through emotional bleed, but our outlook in general can influence each other. It's like any community that way. Too many negative outlooks will darken the whole group, but enough positive outlooks will brighten the group. Now that just about wraps up our presentation today. We're all very glad to have gotten the chance to share our experiences, thoughts, and ideas with you. Feel free to share with us your own experiences, thoughts, and ideas. We hope we've inspired some of you to try making your own cup lists. Good luck with the lists and with your future resiliency, every being.